Good morning and welcome to Snake Find Your Truth, where we talk about psychedelics and how they help us lead the lives we want to live. I'm Alison Crosthwait and I'm your host. I am a Wall Street trader turned psychotherapist, no longer psychotherapist, now psychedelic educator and guide. And I am so happy to be here again with you today, where we're going to talk a little bit about the healing journey of psychedelics. First, we're going to talk about what the healing journey with psychedelics is not, because I'm seeing so much of that right now. And guess who's come to visit us? A cat who is now on the floor. So, psychedelics are in general, although this is changing, in general, illegal to possess and to sell in most of the countries in which people will be watching this broadcast. And that includes Canada and the United States. And this is a really complicated topic, which I will probably talk more about in other episodes. But what I want to say is this. Psychedelics, let's talk about psilocybin, LSD, ayahuasca. There's a whole bunch of other ones. They're classified alongside, used to be cannabis, no longer, cocaine, heroin, crack, a whole range of illegal substances. This is a really complicated topic because why a certain set of substances has been classified as illegal versus other substances such as alcohol and tobacco and now cannabis is a very interesting question. And the colonialist and racist history of these laws and of the prosecution of these laws and the what's the word for it? The policing of these laws is completely within the structure of colonialization. It's not actually necessarily to the benefit of each citizen. It furthers various agendas, just like all laws do. And just like we might not say, like, the food guide is this pure pyramid that's been created on behalf of each of our health, we also might not say that the war on drugs was this pure thing created for the health and safety of people. And this is quite a complex topic because there's certainly substances that can cause significant harm to people. And so can bleach, and so can alcohol. So we want to kind of hold the fact that laws are created, social contracts are created in a context of colonialization, patriarchy, racism, and they're not perfect, and they're trying to do something, and it's evolving. And so what you end up with are various cultures around these topics. And we each have to kind of take a stand as to where we are on them. But what happens is psychedelics gets lumped in with a kind of drug culture and a kind of outsider culture. And, I never even tried cannabis till I was over 40. Maybe once at a party, I smoked a couple whiffs of a joint, but I am not one of those people who has kind of a history of this, and now that it's becoming popular, I'm talking about it. Psychedelics for me has always been something I've done as an adult, an over 40 adult, and always been something that I've done in the context of healing, in the context of improving life. And this is where intention is really, really, really important, that no matter what your history with so-called drugs, that if you're interested in making shifts and exploring this work on behalf of yourself and the people you love and your community, because when we shift, we create ripples, right? We do this work on behalf of the world. We are the people that we can impact best. Healing us best is the first thing we can do, right? Which reminds me of something I'll talk about in a second. So when we're approaching these substances, it's important to watch our language, and it's important to think about our intention and our energy around it. So using words like tripping, high, stoned, these are perhaps not the most empowering way of speaking about these medicines. It also emphasizes a kind of escapist aspect to them, which they could have. To be honest, I don't find them very escapist. I don't enjoy using substances. I don't think that these psychedelics are particularly escapist, but they do fall in that category of you're not always completely present to yourself, especially when you're macrodosing. So this is a really important thing to kind of come to grips with for yourself. Psychedelics are not magic. Like the pharmaceutical industry is getting really into them right now. And the way that they're studying and talking about them, it's like, oh, if you microdose, you won't have anxiety anymore. It's this magic pill kind of approach, which is absolutely not what psychedelics offer us. They're not symptom relief. They don't shortcut us to anything. They sometimes intense cut us to anything, i.e., we go through what we need to go through faster, but we can't get around the intergenerational legacy of pain and disconnection from ourselves that we all carry that keeps us back from the things that we want. And psychedelics are an accelerant to a personal growth process that is already underway. So let's talk about the healing journey. So Joseph Campbell is a very well-known, I call him a philosopher, anthropologist, who studied myths from all over the world. And his sort of idea or conglomeration was the hero's journey. That there is a journey that human beings take. That when we're born into this earth not knowing anything. We don't know why we're here. We're just alive. And we're born into a family, into a context that starts to tell us things about who we are and what's good and what's bad and how to get what we need and what doesn't get us what we need. And each of us learns a very different set of rules, and we learn them in our nervous system before we ever learn them verbally. So they're very, very unconscious, and we assume that what we've learned is the same as everybody else, but it isn't. And there are commonalities, but we each have our own very particular wiring in this regard. And the journey of being human is the journey of creating a life when no one has told us why we're here. No one has told us what we're supposed to do, that we're actually completely free, but we've been told a whole bunch of things as if they're true. And we start to go, oh, and this is how it usually works. At some point, we've built a life. Say we get an education, we get a job, we have a family, and then we're like, oh my God, this is all made up. In some form, we go, yeah, but I'm not happy, and I did everything I was supposed to do. Or wait a minute, this isn't the way it's supposed to work. In some form, we get a bit of a wake-up call. And that wake-up call is part of the human journey. And then at some point, we transition. We are no longer here in the form that we're in. And because there's so much uncertainty, so much that we don't know in this journey, we resonate so much with these stories of people overcoming things and stepping into uncertainty. So we have story after story in all the cultures of a hero who goes off on a journey to find something, right? Related to their mother or related to eternal life or something that they need to find, right? Your favorite movie, just think of your favorite movie. What is the journey the hero goes on? Then on the way to get the thing, the sword, the grail, the relationship, whatever it is, they encounter obstacles. And they're like, what are these obstacles doing? I don't want them here, but I want this thing so much. I have to face the obstacle. It's always an unexpected obstacle. It's not what they thought they were going to find. And they always learn something about themselves through the process. So when they come back, they do find the thing and they come back and they return with it. But it is the journey that has changed them. So they knew they had to take the journey, but they thought it was to get the thing when actually it's to grow. This is what human beings do. We want to create things in the world because we have lessons to learn, things to step into, ways of being that we want to be, that we know are ours, right? And so when it comes to healing, this is very, very, very similar. We go on a journey. We say, I want my relationship to have more heart. So say we go on an 8-week healing journey. It could be Reiki. It could be therapy. It could be microdosing psilocybin. It could be whatever it is. We set the intention. We go off. Hopefully we're supported. And then things happen. Maybe our partner does something really triggering. Or maybe we have a dream. Or maybe a close friendship has something happen in it. Or maybe a friend gives us a book and we just get handed this book and it was the right book for us. But we have some type of thing happen that takes us forward on the journey, and how we respond to that thing and to the extent we're willing to open to it and reimagine ourselves, this is our journey. This is the initiation into a new level of understanding of ourselves. And then we return new. And so we come back to our relationship with a different understanding of it than we had to start. And so psychedelics accelerate this process. When we take psychedelics with intention, we see more. We literally do, because they change the brain and they loosen the patterns that are in the brain. So we have ways of seeing, right, that are very rigid and conditioned, like Pavlov's dog. Bell, we drool, it's time to eat, right? We're so conditioned. But psychedelics open the neuroplasticity. They soften all those patterns so we can actually see more. So when we're microdosing, that's why if our partner does something that usually would trigger the crap out of us, we may still feel triggered, absolutely. But we also might see, they are trying. And that changes everything, because our perspective is expanded and we can hold more in our bodies. That's just one example. So the setting of the intention and the going on the journey, this is what it's all about. It's not about the drug. The medicine helps us. It amplifies a journey that each of us is already on. And if we keep saying, oh, they're drugs, like I don't even take Tylenol, I don't want to be high, if we keep pushing them away and making these medicines bad, we miss the possibility that they offer. Now, they're not right for everyone, but nobody is saying like antibiotics are bad. Well, that's not true. Lots of people are saying antibiotics are bad. But it's like antibiotics are right. They save lives in certain circumstances. All medicines have a place. And if we can accept, especially psilocybin and some of the other natural plant medicines, as part of the continuum of herbal medicine that supports humans on their journey, and still remember that the human is responsible for their healing journey, whether they take psychedelics or not, whether they have help from the mushroom or not, whether they take a chamomile tea to calm them before bed or not. The human being is on a journey that they're responsible for. and that they can access natural components, starting with oxygen, right? And food to assist them in the journey. It's all part of that continuum. So that's the healing journey. That's how I see psychedelics. And maybe next time I'll talk more about my story of what intention I came to psychedelics with, and then how that intention worked itself out in my life. Because that's a very good example. I also want to say I welcome questions and comments, because I will create stories and shows in response to what you are interested in. And I'm already, talking to my clients, talking to the people in my orbit, getting a sense of what are the questions, and that's how I'm creating what I'm creating for you. So it's very much collaborative, very much in response. So I want to just, before we finish, talk a little bit about trauma. And this, I'm not going to talk about like the big T trauma here, the big traumas where we know we've had a trauma, like witnessing a death, sexual abuse, intergenerational trauma. These types of things we know, and there is healing to be done. But here's the thing. I want you to think about a time recently when you were upset about something. Maybe someone didn't do something that they said they were going to do. That's a common one. Let's think about that. So why would it upset me if somebody didn't do what they said they were going to do? Why didn't they do it? Well, there could be like so many reasons, right? So many reasons. But what's the one that we go to? Why are we upset? Because we're disrespected. That's interesting, right? We're disrespected? Huh. So even if the person who said they were going to do something and didn't do it actually does think, I don't care about Alison. Yeah. Why do I feel disrespected? Only because there's a part of me that thinks that I'm not respectable. Because there's lots of things that I hear in the world, and we all hear in the world, that are not positive towards us. The world is full of many opinions and many perspectives. And not all of them are a personal affront to each of us. And the people who suffer the most in the world are the ones who take the world the most personally. But when we do take something personally, this is about our self-worth. It's not about anybody else. There's usually 1 million reasons why they didn't do what they said they were going to do. It has nothing to do with their respect for us or disrespect. But even if they do disrespect, what is our respect for ourselves? And so this is what I mean by the smaller T trauma, which is not less serious, but it's kind of taken for granted that, say somebody agrees to, come fix your internet, and they don't come at the time they say they're going to come, we get pissed off, right? It's because we created the time and they disrespect. And it's very interesting, because most of us in that scenario will go to a place of we've been disrespected when we have absolutely not been disrespected. The internet company has no personal feelings about us as people. None. Zero. But we have, in a fundamental way as humans, been separated from our naturalness, from our life force. And when that gets reflected in the world, we go to a we've been disrespected place. And we all do it. And the journey that we're called on is to connect more and more to who we are, And these medicines have a beautiful way of accelerating that connection and strengthening that connection and healing some of the negative patterns we have that make us go, oh my God, the bank, the cell phone company, they're horrible. They, and they may not be the best. We don't have to love them, the structure, and we don't have to love our culture, but we do have to understand that there is nothing personal happening here. Absolutely nothing. And that when we can connect to our worth, our beauty, our flow, zing, that's the thing. And that's what these medicines are brilliant at helping us do on that journey. And I think that's the journey that every human being is ultimately on. So thanks for being here today. Be in touch. Be in touch. Alison Crosthwait on Instagram and LinkedIn are great ways to find me, or through Connect TV. Leave comments here and I will definitely respond. I love to have conversations about these things. I love to have conversations about what's possible for us and dispel all these myths about like, we do drugs, and no interest in being in drug culture. I only have interest in each of us being the best versions of who we are. And if these medicines can support us, let's talk about how they can become more available. Thanks very much and see you in 2 weeks. Brilliant, brilliant.